I have not been good about making videos on this channel. I have been really working hard on my main channel though, but instead of just following literally one video a month, because I've only been doing monthly check-ins, it's time we talk more books. Oh my God. Okay, today's category of books is literary fiction, specifically ones that truly deeply explore the human psyche, which I think literary fiction is just supposed to do that. It's supposed to be prose. It's supposed to be, you know, not plot driven, more character driven. I think there's like this weird conflicting theory about what literary fiction really is, but that's what it is to me. That's what I define it as, okay? So not plot driven, more character driven. And I personally prefer literary fiction that, yeah, just deeply looks at feelings and emotions and trauma and family and the psyche and thoughts and mindsets. Like, that is what I love. I have 5 books with me today, all of which I deeply, deeply loved or resonated with, or yeah, they just made me feel things. And I love, love, love any content, movies, films, YouTube videos, books, anything that makes me feel things. So here we are. If you've also just been wondering about literary fiction and wanting to like try the genre out, these are some great ones to start with. So let's get started. The first one might be actually a little bit controversial, whether it's a widely loved book or not, because it's by Sally Rooney. It's Conversations with Friends. Now, Sally Rooney, if you haven't heard anything about her, she is a bit of a controversial writer in the sense that she doesn't necessarily write about controversial topics. People just are quite unsure about her writing. Her stories are like, I would almost describe them as a bit dry, but in the sense that they're so like heavy on the prose. Very much so, like there's not really much going on. It's just like a slice of life in some very unlovable characters' lives. She also doesn't put quotations around speech, so a lot of people really hate that. And I definitely think that she's an author that you either really, really love her or you're like, what the F is going on? The first book I read from her was actually Normal People, I think it's called. I didn't love Normal People. I know there's like kind of almost a cult following around Normal People, but for me personally, it just didn't do it. However, when I read Conversations with Friends, I absolutely loved it. This book talks about Frances and her best friend Bobby, who go and meet this photographer woman, and they just sort of instantly become infatuated with this woman. Bobby more so in the sense that she definitely just has a crush on this photographer lady, and Frances really just feeling almost a sense of like jealousy and disdain for this woman because she's so successful. She's a creative, like Frances is trying to be a writer, and yeah, she just develops this like insane jealousy for her, this envy. And then she meets the photographer's husband. He's sophisticated, he's handsome, he's kind of shy, but he's funny, and instantly, Frances becomes infatuated with Nick, the husband. So on goes this relationship where Frances is just starting to like get to know Nick. They're starting to flirt. And what starts out as her trying to have a professional relationship with the photographer ends up being her having an affair with Nick. So the book just dives into their relationship, Frances's mindset around it all, which she's definitely an unlovable narrator. Like you kind of, I don't know, you kind of feel for her, but at the same time you're like, what are you doing, girl? Like, just stop. So how does this interesting affair play out as she continues to be friends with the photographer in a way? Her and Bobby gets invited to this photographer and Nick's vacations. Like they just get all very close, and it just becomes kind of a weirder and kind of more intimate yet more painful experience as time goes on. So you'll have to read the book to see what actually happens in the end with her and Nick, with Nick and the photographer, with Bobby and the photographer. But yeah, it is just, it's a bit of a ride, but one that is at the same time very oddly comforting. The flaws of these human beings are just being revealed in such a clear, open book sort of way that you can't help but relate in an unrelatable way, yet still want more as you read. Another lit fic that I absolutely loved is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I feel like Celeste Ng can't do wrong. She just is such a brilliant writer. And the thing I appreciate the most about her writing style is that she is such a genius at crafting like character stories and relational webs. So in this one specifically, you're following this family as they grieve the death of the favorite child of the family, Lydia. Lydia is found dead in the town lake one day, and nobody can figure out how this could be possible because Lydia is a high-achieving child. She seems to have a great group of friends. She is a really great girl at home. And as you experience the different versions of grief that happens with different family members, the brother, the sister, the two parents, you're also diving into the history of the family as well as the history of the individuals and how it all relates back to this big question of what happened to Lydia. So you're diving back into the childhood of Lydia and her siblings, into the beginning of the relationship of the parents. And it's just insane to me that she's able to so clearly tell the stories of each individual family member who has had such a different experience with Lydia, individually as well as together, yet still keep the reader in tune with that question of, okay, what happened to Lydia? What's going on with the family? How does this affect the family dynamic? Like, you just never lose track of the point of the story, which I think is a very hard thing to accomplish, because when you're giving us such amazing individual backstories of characters, sometimes it's easy to get lost in those and forget about the main plot. But as I was reading this, the plotline felt so clear, yet I was also very much so invested in every single person in the family, which, yeah, like it's just so masterful. Her writing is just masterful. That's the best way I can describe it. I love that you're really getting to explore personal trauma, family trauma, generational trauma, but also like human relationships and how that affects your life very, very deeply. So that is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. The third book, she is a thick one. This is Pachinko by Minjin Lee. I do not recommend this lightly because you will feel pain. You will most likely cry. Like it's heavy. It's a heavy, heavy book. Yes, it is very lit fic. It is very much so this exploration of human psyche, but like in the deepest, longest way ever, because you are following this family through 3 separate generations, so much generational trauma. There is poverty, there is just everything under the moon that could be horrifying and depressing. It goes on in this book. But at the same time, it is very, very much so a book about hope and love and family and why that's so important. This book starts out with Sunya, who is this Korean daughter of a fisherman. One day she meets this beautiful, successful, rich man, and they start this secret relationship and she ends up pregnant. But when she finds out that the man actually has a wife and kid in Japan, she decides, no, I'm not gonna have a relationship with you. I am going to try to pave my own way. So as to not bring shame to her family and to her entire village, she decides to accept a marriage that's offered to her and move to Japan. This is all happening during the time where Japan was occupying much of China. There's a lot of war, there is a ton of poverty. And so as a Korean woman, actually as a Korean couple moving to Japan, it is not easy. You know, she's starting with nothing. She was already sort of in an impoverished state, but now she's raising a child. She is living in a shack. She is trying to make this marriage work. There is so much that happens. Her story is so beautiful though, and yeah, you just get to see her experience all of this as well as grow as both a girl, a woman, and a human, and just try to figure out how she can take care of her family. I know she's a thick one, but she is oh so freaking worth it. So yeah, that's Pachinko by Minjin Lee. This one is definitely a favorite of potentially all time. This is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellers. Oh, this was so good. Okay, so first of all, this book is based in New York, and I have found that I just absolutely love books that are based in New York. Maybe it's because I love the city. Maybe it's just because it's like the perfect setting for stories, especially stories about growth and just self-discovery and just coming of age stories. Cleopatra and Frankenstein talks about Cleo, who is in her 20s, who falls in love with Frank, who's in his 40s, and they have this crazy whirlwind of a relationship. They have a shotgun wedding. It just deep dives into their relationship, what it's like getting together so quickly and committing to each other so quickly. But it also talks about the people around them and how this whirlwind of a relationship affected every single person that is close to them. There's aspects of like family trauma, deeply rooted personal trauma. There's a lot of different characters and backstories in this. It talks about kind of like this wealth disparity, because obviously Cleo is very young and she's still figuring out her life, but Frank is actually quite successful and has a very successful career, but also that doesn't necessarily always mean that you are ahead in life. Like, I don't want to give away too much, but it was great. I really, really, really love this. Trigger warning though, there is talks of suicide in this book. So if that's not a topic that you're ready to broach, I would skip this one. However, I do think that this book was such a beautiful way of working that into the idea of like second chances and rebirth and bettering yourself. So for that reason, I really, really liked this book. That was Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellers. The last book on my list I actually received as an ARC, and this wasn't like like they just sent it to me to review. Like, I reached out to the publishers and I was like, please, please, for the love of God, give me this ARC because I need to read it right now. And it's rare for me to do that, but it's Dolly Alderton, so how could I not? It's funny that I'm so obsessed with this author because I've only read one other book by her, and that's Ghosts, but I just loved her writing so freaking much. It was phenomenal. Like, it felt so comforting. It felt like I was reading my diary, or it felt like I was speaking to a friend. And yeah, I just loved it. So I kind of had an idea that I would also enjoy this book, but I wanted to test that theory, and I wanted to see if I read another Dolly Alderton book, if I would love it as much. And lo and behold, she got me again. This is Good Material by Dolly Alderton. This is actually really interesting because Dolly writes in the perspective of Andy, a man. And in an interview, I heard that she had to do a lot of research to be able to write this book because she wanted to really accurately depict what it felt like and what it looked like being a man going through a deeply saddening breakup. And that's exactly what this book is about. It's about Andy, who is going through a breakup with who is essentially the love of his life in his eyes, this lady named Jen. And Andy just can't quite figure out like what happened, you know? It felt like their relationship was great, and then he gets dumped by Jen. So now he's in his 30s, I think, and he's trying to start over. He is exploring the dating scene. He's trying to see if his friends want to go out with him. You know, what is it like? What is it going to be like now that he is not young and re-entering the dating scene? You really get to dive deep into his whole mentality around the breakup, just his messy, crazy, petty, sad, heartbreaking, jealous thoughts. And it was such a fun read because really you can only experience your own breakup in this much detail. Like, you know how you act during breakups, but being able to look into and examine somebody else's head when they're going through a breakup and feeling some of those petty, yucky thoughts and feelings, it was good. It was really, really good. I also think this book was super well rounded. I think that she actually wrapped up the story even better than she did with Ghosts, and it just had a really, really satisfying ending. So that's Good Material by Dolly Alderton. Those are the 5 books that I want to recommend as my Litfic starter pack. If you've read any of these books, let me know if you agree with my descriptions and my reviews, and yeah, just overall whether you enjoyed them, or if you had any other literary fiction books that you absolutely loved. Please let us know in the comments so that people can find more of them, because I know there are just like endless ones. It was honestly kind of hard to pick just 5 from my bookshelf, but I think these are the 5 that stood out to me the most and that I would pick as like a starter pack. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. I do have a Discord channel as well as a newsletter. In the newsletter, I write about all the things that I love, as well as the books that I'm currently reading and have read. And then in the Discord, I try to chat in almost every day and just answer your questions, have fun, have a little community where we can be friends. So make sure to go check both of those out in the description box below. Oh, also, I wanted to ask, should I move vlogs to this channel? I know this channel, I called it Angel Vlogs too, but I've been mainly just doing book videos, but I'm debating whether I should do vlogs on this channel. Comment and let me know what you think about that. Okay, that's it. I hope you're having an amazing day wherever you are in the world, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!